The grand chamber of the Galactic Council floated in the void above Proxima Centauri b, a massive ring of metal and glass that housed representatives from 47 different species. Inside, the air processors worked overtime to maintain the delicate balance of atmospheres that kept everyone alive. Some breathed methane, others oxygen, and a few absorbed radiation directly through their crystalline skin. Ambassador Taemin stood at the human delegation podium. His dark suit pressed perfectly despite the 3-week journey from Earth. Beside him, military advisor Ji-woo checked her tablet, while cultural liaison Byung-ho reviewed the day's agenda with barely concealed boredom. This was supposed to be a routine session about trade regulations for asteroid mining rights. It was not going to be routine. Across the chamber floor, the Vexthar delegation rose as one. There were 12 of them, each standing nearly 8 feet tall on 4 legs with forearms ending in sharp claws. Their exoskeletons gleamed under the chamber lights, a dark chitinous armor that had evolved over millions of years. They looked like enormous praying mantises crossed with ants, and their compound eyes reflected the light in unsettling ways. Hive Commander Tikachak stepped forward. All 4 arms spread wide in what the humans had learned was a gesture of dominance. The translator implants in every species' ear clicked to life, converting the Vexthar's clicking and screeching into understandable speech. We, the Vexthar Collective, do hereby declare our intent, Tikachak announced, its voice filled with what could only be described as pride. The human species has expanded too far too fast. Your colonies encroach on territories we have marked for assimilation. Your trade disrupts our economic projections. Your very existence complicates our expansion plans. The chamber fell silent. A declaration of territorial dispute was common enough. But there was something in Tikchak's tone that suggested more was coming. Therefore, the Hive Commander continued, we issue this ultimatum to the human delegation and to Earth itself. You have 7 solar cycles to withdraw from all colony worlds and submit to Vexthar authority. You will dissolve your government, your military, and your independent economic systems. You will become part of the collective. Several species in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. The aquatic delphine ambassador released a stream of nervous bubbles in her water tank. The bird-like Screetha delegates ruffled their feathers in agitation. Everyone knew what came next in Vexthar ultimatums. And should you refuse, Tikchak said, its mandibles clicking with satisfaction, we will demonstrate our power in a way that leaves no doubt of our superiority. Our armada, 12,000 warships strong, is already positioned at the edge of your solar system. As proof of our capability, we will destroy your moon. Completely. We will reduce it to debris as a warning of what awaits your planet if you do not comply. The chamber erupted in gasps and shocked chirps and bubbles. Destroying a moon was no small threat. It was a demonstration of overwhelming force, a promise of annihilation. The Luminae crystalline delegates shimmered with distress. This was a declaration of total war. And then, in the midst of all that shock and horror, a sound emerged from the human delegation podium that nobody expected. Laughter. Taemin was laughing. Not a polite chuckle or a nervous giggle, but genuine, belly-deep laughter. His shoulders shook with it. He bent forward slightly, one hand on the podium to steady himself, the other wiping tears from his eyes. Ji-woo had her hand clamped over her mouth, but her shoulders were shaking too. Even Byung-ho, normally as expressive as a stone statue, had cracked a smile that threatened to become a grin. The laughter echoed through the chamber, amplified by the acoustics designed to carry speech. It was so unexpected, so inappropriate that for a moment everyone simply froze. Tikachak's antennae twitched in confusion. This was not the correct response. Fear was correct. Outrage was acceptable. Desperate negotiation was expected. Laughter was not in any of the psychological profiles the Vexthar had compiled on humans. You find our threat amusing? Tikachak demanded, its voice rising in pitch. Taemin managed to control himself enough to speak, though he still had to pause to catch his breath. I'm sorry, he said, waving one hand apologetically. It's just, you're going to blow up the moon? Our moon? Yes, Tikachak said, uncertain now. We will demonstrate our power by destroying the largest satellite orbiting your homeworld. The psychological impact alone will... The psychological impact, Ji-woo interrupted, finally lowering her hand from her mouth, will be that half of Earth throws a party. Do you have any idea how many problems that rock causes? Byung-ho pulled up a file on his tablet and began reading in a deadpan voice. The moon is responsible for tidal forces that cause approximately 47 billion credits in flood damage annually. It has inspired countless myths about werewolves which, while entertaining, have contributed to widespread misinformation about biology. Its gravitational pull creates irregular tides that complicate shipping schedules. The cost of the Apollo program, adjusted for inflation, was roughly 1 trillion credits, which many economists argue could have been better spent elsewhere. Plus, Taemin added, his grin widening, do you know how many bad movies have been made about the moon? There was this one film in the 2020s about the moon being secretly hollow and falling out of orbit. It was terrible. Please blow it up. You'd be doing cinema a favor. Jiwoo nodded enthusiastically. And the romance aspect. Every cliché proposal involves moonlight. My boyfriend proposed under the romantic light of the full moon during a rainstorm. I said yes, but I also got pneumonia. If you eliminate the moon, you eliminate moon-based romantic clichés. That's a public service. The other delegates were staring at the humans now, completely bewildered. The Delphine ambassador, Rina, leaned over to her aide and whispered, "Is this normal human behavior?" The aide, who had studied human psychology, whispered back, "Unfortunately, yes." They laughed at volcanoes. They made pets out of wolves and sharks. They invented something called extreme ironing, where they iron clothes in dangerous locations for fun. This is actually mild for them. Tikachak's mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of agitation in Vexthar biology. You do not fear the destruction of your moon? Fear it? Taemin said, shaking his head. Commander, we've been arguing about what to do with lunar regolith for decades. The mining companies want it, the environmentalists hate them, and the tourism board keeps trying to turn it into a theme park. You destroying it solves about 15 different political conflicts. Honestly, we should be paying you. But Tikchak struggled to process this. The tidal disruption alone would cause catastrophic changes to your ocean currents. Your ecosystems would collapse. Would they, though? Byung-ho said, pulling up another file. We've had tidal regulation technology for 40 years. We just never implemented it because, well, the moon was there. It seemed wasteful to build expensive gravity generators when we had a natural satellite doing the job for free. But if you remove the moon, suddenly those generators become cost-effective. Actually, our scientists have been waiting for an excuse to deploy them. Jiwoo was scrolling through her own tablet now. Oh, and the debris cleanup contracts alone will create approximately 2 million jobs. The economy will love this. Commander, you're not threatening us. You're accidentally solving our unemployment problem. The chamber had gone completely silent except for the humans. Every other species was trying to understand what they were witnessing. The Vexthar had just declared war and threatened to destroy a celestial body, and the humans were treating it like a favor. Techak's forearms spread wide in frustration. This is not the correct response. You should be afraid. You should be begging for mercy. You should be filing paperwork. Taemin interrupted cheerfully. Because if you're going to blow up the moon, you'll need to file an environmental impact statement with the Galactic Council. It's in Section 47 of the Celestial Body Modification Act. Byung-ho, do we have the forms? We do, Byung-ho said, pulling up a document. It's a 70-page form. You'll need to detail the debris field projections, potential impact on nearby satellites, and compensation plans for any affected parties. There's also a fee, approximately 5 million credits. You're joking, Tikchak said flatly. We never joke about bureaucracy, Taemin replied, his expression suddenly serious. Then he grinned again. But we do joke about everything else. Look, Commander, if you want to blow up our moon, go ahead. We'll even live stream it. The viewing numbers alone will break galactic records. We'll sell advertising space. This is going to be incredible for our media sector. Tikchak stood frozen, all four arms slowly lowering. This was not how conquest worked. The Vexthar had subjugated 12 species before humanity. All of them had responded to threats with fear or defiance or desperate negotiation. None of them had responded with laughter and economic opportunity assessments. Tikachak started, then stopped. Its antennae twitched rapidly. I do not understand your species. Nobody does, Jiwoo said happily. We don't even understand ourselves half the time. That's part of our charm. Taemin leaned forward on the podium, his expression friendly but his eyes sharp. Commander Tikchak, let me be very clear. If you want to declare war on Earth, that's your choice. If you want to blow up our moon, we'll actually thank you for it. But if you think any of this is going to make us afraid of you, you've severely miscalculated. We evolved on a planet that actively tries to kill us. We've survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, pandemics, and our own worst impulses. An alien armada? That's just Tuesday. The silence that followed was profound. Tikachak looked around the chamber, seeing the shocked faces of the other species, seeing the complete lack of fear in the human delegation, and made a decision. Then war it is, Tikchak declared. The Vexthar Collective will show humanity what true power means. 7 solar cycles, then we demonstrate our superiority. The Vexthar delegation turned and marched from the chamber in perfect synchronization, their footsteps clicking on the metal floor. As the doors closed behind them, the chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then Taimin straightened his jacket and turned to Jiwoo. Send the message to Earth, he said quietly. Operation Laughingstock is in effect. Jiwoo nodded and began typing on her tablet. Byung-ho was already composing talking points for the media. The Delphine ambassador Rina approached the human podium, her aquatic features visible through her containment suit. Ambassador Tae-min, she said carefully, do you truly not fear what is coming? Tae-min smiled at her, and there was something ancient in that smile, something that spoke of a species that had clawed its way to the top of a death-world food chain through sheer stubbornness. Ambassador Rina, he said gently, we're humans. We don't fear the things we should, and we overthink the things we shouldn't. The Vexthar think they're declaring war on us. What they're actually doing is giving us the most entertaining show of the century, and we are very, very good at turning shows into profit. As the human delegation packed up their materials and prepared to leave, the other species watched them go with a mixture of confusion, concern, and for some of the wiser ones, pity. Pity for the Vexthar, because they had made the critical mistake of threatening humanity without understanding what humanity actually was. A species that had survived everything their own planet could throw at them, and learned to laugh about it afterward. The war was about to begin, and Earth was already winning. The Vexthar Armada entered the solar system exactly 7 cycles after their declaration, just as Hive Commander Tikchak had promised. 12,000 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their dark hulls blotting out the stars. Each ship bristled with weapons capable of cracking planets. Their shields could withstand nuclear bombardment. They were the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever assembled in one place. Earth's response was being live-streamed across 47 different platforms. Hye-won, a popular content creator from Seoul, sat in her apartment with a spread of Korean fried chicken in front of her. Her camera pointed at both her face and the night sky visible through her window. Her viewership counter was climbing rapidly as species across the galaxy tuned in to watch humanity's final hours. Okay, everyone, she said cheerfully, holding up a chicken drumstick. Welcome to Moon Destruction Watch Party, sponsored by Kim's Fried Chicken. Use code MOONBOOM for 20% off your order. Now I've got my bingo card ready. We're betting on which crater gets hit first. I'm going with Mary Tranquillitatis because it's the biggest target. But chat seems to think they'll go for Tycho because it's more dramatic. The chat scrolled past at incredible speed, with viewers from dozens of species placing their bets. The Delphine were confused. The Screetha were horrified. The Lumini kept asking if this was some kind of human mourning ritual. In Geneva, at Earth's Space Defense Force headquarters, Admiral Dong Jun was holding a press conference. The room was packed with journalists from Earth and other planets. Their recording devices pointed at him like weapons. Admiral, one reporter called out, the Vexthar Armada has been detected at the edge of the solar system. What defensive measures is Earth implementing? Dongjun shrugged. He actually shrugged. We've moved some satellites out of the potential debris field. That's about it. The room erupted in shouting questions. The Admiral held up one hand for silence. Look, he said, his tone remarkably casual for someone discussing an alien invasion. They said they're going to blow up the moon. That's their choice. We've run the calculations. The debris won't hit Earth if we adjust our orbital platforms, which we did 3 days ago. As for the moon itself, he pulled up a holographic display showing cost projections. The environmental impact statement alone would cost us more than just letting them do it and cleaning up afterward. A Screetha journalist, her feathers puffed up in agitation, squawked a question through her translator. Are you saying Earth is not going to defend its own moon? Defend it from what? Dongjun asked. It's a rock. A very large rock that's been causing tidal problems for millions of years. If the Vexthar want to remove it for us, that's their business. We're more concerned about the cleanup costs. Captain Yu Jin, his second in command, stepped up to the podium beside him. She was holding a tablet and trying not to smile. Actually, we've already sent the Vexthar an invoice for anticipated debris removal services. We're waiting to hear if they prefer to pay in galactic credits or trade goods. We're open to negotiation. The press conference dissolved into chaos. Half the journalists were shouting questions. A quarter were trying to verify if this was some elaborate joke, and the rest were frantically updating their news feeds with headlines that all essentially said the same thing. Humans have lost their minds. In the Vexthar flagship, Tychak monitored the news feeds with growing confusion. The Psychological Warfare Division had predicted panic, chaos, desperate evacuation attempts. They had prepared for military resistance, for last-minute diplomatic pleas, for anything except what they were actually seeing. Earth was throwing parties. Major cities across the planet had organized Goodbye Moon festivals. In Tokyo, there was a concert. In New York, people were gathering on rooftops with telescopes and beer. In Mumbai, someone had organized a poetry slam about the moon's greatest hits and misses throughout history. In Lagos, a dance competition was underway with a prize for the best moon-related routine. The Vexthar intelligence officer approached Tychak with a report. "Commander, we've intercepted communications from Earth's surface. They're not evacuating. They're not mobilizing their military. They're celebrating." "That's impossible," Tychak said. But even as it spoke, it was watching a live stream of Haywan raiding different types of fried chicken while waiting for the moon to explode. She was currently on her third piece and explaining why the wings were superior to drumsticks for apocalypse viewing. "Perhaps they don't believe we'll actually do it," the intelligence officer suggested. "Then we'll show them," Tychak decided. "Charge the planet killer weapon. Target the moon. We demonstrate our power and they'll understand fear." The order went out across the armada. 12,000 ships aligned their weapons arrays. Energy levels climbed to critical levels. The planet killer weapon, a device that could shatter worlds, focused its immense power on Earth's single natural satellite. On Earth, warning sirens went off. Not evacuation sirens, but notification alerts. Millions of devices pinged simultaneously with the message, "Moon destruction imminent. Viewing recommended. Sunglasses advised." Haywan squealed with excitement. Oh, it's happening. "Everyone get your bingo cards ready." She held up her card to the camera, already marked with several squares. "Remember, we're looking for which crater gets hit first, how many pieces the moon breaks into, and bonus points if we can see the explosion color." The Vexthar fired. The beam of concentrated energy was visible from Earth, a lance of purple-white light that crossed the void in seconds. It hit the moon dead center, and for a moment nothing seemed to happen. Then the moon cracked, not a small crack, but a massive fracture that ran from pole to pole. Light blazed from within as the energy weapon continued to pour power into the satellite. The crack widened. Chunks of rock the size of mountains began to separate, drifting apart in the vacuum of space. And then the moon exploded. It was spectacular. Pieces of lunar rock scattered in all directions, some burning up as they caught the edge of Earth's atmosphere, others spinning off into space. The debris field glowed in the sunlight, creating a temporary ring around Earth that sparkled like diamonds. On Earth, the reaction was immediate. "7!" Haywan screamed, checking her bingo card. It broke into at least 7 major pieces. "Who had 7? "Chad, who had 7? She was bouncing in her seat with excitement. And Mare Tranquillitatis was definitely the first crater hit. I actually win." The hashtag Moonboom started trending immediately. Within minutes, it had 500 trillion impressions across the galactic network. Humans were posting pictures, videos, artistic interpretations, and memes. So many memes. One image showed the moon exploding with the caption, "When you finally deal with that problem you've been putting off for 4.5 billion years." Another showed a before and after picture. The moon existed. The moon now doesn't, humanity. And we took that personally, is what a normal species would say. We're throwing a party. In a laboratory at Seoul National University, Dr. So-ra was already being interviewed by every major news network in the galaxy. She stood in front of a holographic display showing Earth's ocean currents and tidal patterns. The moon's destruction is actually a fascinating opportunity, she explained, her excitement genuine. We've had tidal regulation technology for 50 years, but it was never cost-effective to implement while we had a natural satellite doing the job. Now we can install gravitational stabilizers that will give us more precise control over ocean currents than the moon ever provided. The interviewer, a Luminae representative whose crystalline body was pulsing with confused colors, asked, "But surely the loss of your moon is traumatic for your species." Sora laughed. "Traumatic? Have you seen the internet? Someone already registered the domain moonboom.com and is selling commemorative t-shirts. Another company is offering I Survived the Moon Explosion certificates. And the lunar mining corporations are having parties because they don't have to work on that dusty rock anymore. This is the best thing that's happened to Earth's economy in decades." She pulled up another display. "Look at the job projections. Debris cleanup contracts will create 2 million jobs. Manufacturing the tidal regulators will create another 1 million. The tourism industry is already planning moon memorial sites. And astronomers are thrilled because without the moon's light pollution, we'll have clearer views of deep space. Everyone wins." On the Vexthar flagship, Tukachak watched the reports in stunned silence. They had destroyed a celestial body, demonstrated the power to annihilate worlds, and humanity was selling t-shirts about it. The intelligence officer approached again, this time holding multiple data tablets. "Commander, you need to see this. The humans are already deploying their tidal regulation systems. They had them ready. They were waiting for this." Tukachak looked at the data. Massive gravitational generators were being positioned around Earth's oceans, working in coordination to create stable, predictable tides. The systems were sophisticated, clearly developed over decades. They hadn't just accepted the moon's destruction. They had planned for it. "They wanted us to destroy the moon," Tukachak said slowly, the realization creeping over it like ice. "It appears so," the intelligence officer confirmed. "Economic analysts are projecting a 15% boost to Earth's GDP from the aftermath. The debris field is already being claimed by salvage companies and—" The officer hesitated. "Someone has sent us a message. From Earth's government?" "No, Commander. From someone calling themselves the Seoul Municipal Traffic Authority." Tukachak opened the message. It was a formal complaint about the debris field creating navigation hazards for spacecraft, complete with a fine of 50,000 credits and a request that the Vexthar file proper flight plans before conducting any further demolition activities in Earth's orbital space. There was also a link to a form, a 70-page form about proper procedures for celestial body modification. Tukachak struggled to find words. "They're finding us, and several law firms have filed civil suits claiming emotional distress from the explosion's light pollution. Though," the intelligence officer added, "other law firms are countersuing those firms for frivolous litigation during an awesome space show." Those are their exact words. Tukachak looked at the view screen showing Earth. The planet looked the same as it had before, except now it was surrounded by a sparkling ring of debris that was already being harvested by human mining ships. The lights of cities glowed as bright as ever. There was no panic, no chaos, no fear. "What kind of species?" Tukachak began, then stopped. In New York, a bar had started serving a new drink called the Moon Boom. It was blue, it sparkled, and it apparently tasted like coconut and regret. It was the 5th best-selling cocktail in galactic history within 3 hours of being invented. In Tokyo, the concert had transitioned from Goodbye Moon songs to New Era songs, with musicians already producing tracks about humanity's bright moon-free future. In Mumbai, the Poetry Slam winner had written a piece titled, "That Big Dumb Rock," which was already going viral for its surprisingly touching meditation on letting go of things that no longer served you, even if those things were 4.5 billion-year-old natural satellites. And across Earth, people were going to sleep under a sky that looked different, that sparkled with debris, that showed a universe unfiltered by reflected moonlight. They were going to sleep soundly, unconcerned about the alien armada still hovering at the edge of their solar system, because they were human and humans had survived worse. Hey1 ended her livestream after 6 hours, having consumed an entire bucket of fried chicken and won her moon destruction bingo 3 times. Her final words to her 40 billion viewers were, "Thanks for watching, everyone. Remember to use code MOONBOOM for 20% off at Kim's Fried Chicken. And to the Vexthar, if you're watching, that was a great show. 10 out of 10. Would watch again." What are you blowing up next? In the Geneva headquarters, Admiral Dong Jun received a message from the Vexthar flagship. It was from Tukchuk, and it contained a single question. How are you not afraid? Captain Yu Jin read the message and laughed. Should we tell them the truth? Which truth? Dong Jun asked. That we could have stopped them? That we have weapons that could crack their ships like eggs? Or that we chose not to because this was more profitable? Maybe just send them another invoice, Yu Jin suggested. For the light show. Entertainment services rendered. Dong Jun considered this, then nodded. Do it. And add a line item for impromptu fireworks display. Market rate for something of that scale is about 10 million credits. As Yu Jin drafted the invoice, Dong Jun looked up at the sky through the headquarters window. The debris field was visible even from Earth's surface, a glittering reminder of what had just happened. The Vexthar thought they had demonstrated their power. What they had actually demonstrated was that they had no idea who they were dealing with, and that was going to be their biggest mistake. The invasion began at dawn across 12 major cities on Earth. 60,000 drop pods screamed through the atmosphere, burning bright as they descended. The Vexthar had chosen their targets carefully. Seoul, New Detroit, Mumbai Nexus, São Paulo Heights, Lagos Central, and 7 other population centers. The plan was simple and had worked on 12 previous species. Land in force, demonstrate military superiority, accept surrender within hours. In Seoul's Gangnam district, the first drop pod crashed through the roof of a small restaurant and buried itself 3 feet into the pavement. The impact shook buildings for 2 blocks. Steam hissed from the pod's cooling vents. Then the hatch opened with a hydraulic hiss, and 4 Vexthar warriors emerged. Their exoskeletons gleaming in the morning light, they raised their weapons and prepared to unleash their war cry. The terrifying screech that had broken the will of countless defenders on countless worlds. Street vendor Kang Dae, who had been setting up his tteokbokki cart for the morning rush, didn't even look up. He was busy arranging his ingredients, making sure everything was in the right place. The fish cakes needed to be fresh. The rice cakes needed to be soft. The sauce needed to be perfect. The Vexthar warriors screeched their war cry. Several pedestrians looked up, mildly interested. Someone took a picture. A businessman checked his watch and kept walking to catch his train. Kang Dae finally looked up, a ladle in one hand. He frowned at the Vexthar warriors who were now blocking the sidewalk in front of his cart. Yeah, he shouted in Korean, then switched to the common galactic language. You're scaring away my customers. Either buy something or move along. The lead Vexthar warrior, designated Tikazar, stared at the small human. This was not the correct response. The human should be running, screaming, begging for mercy, not complaining about business. Tikazar screeched again, louder this time, stepping forward with all 4 arms raised in a threatening posture. Kang Dae's expression shifted from annoyed to angry. He stepped around his cart and, before anyone could process what was happening, smacked the Vexthar warrior across the head with his metal ladle. The sound echoed down the street. Clang! I said move! Kang Dae yelled. I don't care if you have 4 arms or 40. Bad reviews are bad reviews. You want to invade Earth? Fine, do it somewhere else. This is my corner. Takzar stumbled backward, its compound eyes trying to process what had just happened. It was a warrior of the Vexthar collective. It had trained for cycles. It had conquered cities, and it had just been hit with a cooking utensil by a street vendor who was more concerned about customer service than personal safety. Similar scenes were playing out across the planet. In New Detroit, a Vexthar warrior landed in the middle of a traffic intersection and was immediately honked at by 17 different vehicles. In Mumbai Nexus, another warrior emerged from its pod to find itself surrounded by street children, asking if they could touch its exoskeleton because it looked really cool. In Lagos Central, a warrior's dramatic entrance was completely ignored because a local football match was happening and nobody wanted to miss it. In a government office in Geneva, Minister of Information Yun was not coordinating military resistance. She was coordinating something far more devastating to the Vexthar. She was coordinating memes. Okay, team, she said to her staff, all of whom were at their computers and tablets. The invasion just started. We've got maybe 3 hours before the galactic news cycle picks up the full story. Let's make sure they're sharing our narrative, not the Vexthars. Her deputy pulled up the first batch of images, Vexthar warriors looking confused at traffic lights. Vexthar warriors standing in line at coffee shops. Vexthar warriors being photographed by tourists like they were street performers. Perfect, Dayun said, grinning. Caption this one, when you declare war but don't understand public transportation. And this one, aliens invade Earth. Still can't skip the queue at coffee shops. Within 20 minutes, the memes were everywhere. The galactic network exploded with images and videos from Earth. Someone had already auto-tuned a Vexthar war screech into a catchy dance track. It was climbing the charts. A video of Kangdai hitting a warrior with his ladle had 17 billion views and counting. The hashtag #AngryBugs was trending. One particularly popular meme showed a Vexthar warrior standing at a bus stop looking confused, with the caption, "Invaded Earth, forgot to check the bus schedule, now late for conquest." Another showed two warriors trying to figure out a revolving door with the text, "Advanced enough for interstellar travel, defeated by human architecture." In the Vexthar command ship, Tikachak was receiving reports that made no sense. The invasion was not going according to plan. At all. "Commander," the intelligence officer said, its antennae twitching rapidly. "Our warriors have secured 0 strategic positions. Humans are treating them like tourists." "That's impossible," Tikachak said. "We have 60,000 warriors on the ground. They should be encountering resistance." "They are encountering resistance, Commander, just not the kind we expected." The officer pulled up a video feed. It showed a Vexthar warrior trying to enter a government building in Seoul. A security guard, an elderly human male, was blocking the entrance. "No shoes, no shirt, no service," the guard said firmly. "I am a warrior of the Vexthar Collective." The warrior screeched, "I demand entry." "I don't care if you're the Emperor of Space," the guard replied. "Building policy says no weapons inside. You want to come in, you check your guns at the desk." The warrior stood there, completely baffled. It had conquered cities. It had fought in space battles. It had never been stopped by building policy before. Tikachak watched similar scenes playing out across the planet. Warriors being asked for identification. Warriors being told to wait in line. Warriors being given parking tickets for leaving their drop pods in no parking zones. "What is wrong with these humans?" Tikachak demanded. At Seoul National University, Dr. Jae Sung was giving an impromptu lecture to a packed auditorium. News crews from 17 different planets were recording. The Vexthar made a critical error, he explained, pulling up a holographic display of Earth. They assumed that humans, like most species, prioritize survival above all else. This is incorrect. Humans prioritize many things above survival. Convenience, for example, entertainment, principle, spite. He zoomed in on the display, showing Earth's hostile environment. "We evolved on a death world. 70% of our surface is covered by water that will drown us. Our atmosphere corrodes metal. We have storms that can level cities, earthquakes that can shatter continents, volcanoes that can change the climate. And what did we do? We built our biggest cities right next to all of these dangers." The audience was silent, listening. "Humans made pets out of wolves," Jae Sung continued. "Wolves, apex predators that hunted us. We looked at them and said, those would be good friends, and we were right. We keep snakes in our homes for companionship. We swim with sharks for fun. We climb mountains that kill us just to say we did it. The Vexthar think an invasion is scary? We invented a sport called parkour, where we jump off buildings for entertainment." He pulled up images of Vexthar warriors looking confused on Earth's streets. The Vexthar's threat assessment was based on logic. They assumed fear is universal. It is. But what triggers fear is not universal. Other species fear invasion and death. Humans fear social embarrassment, running out of coffee, and bad Wi-Fi connections. An alien armada? That's just interesting. The lecture was being broadcast live. Viewing numbers were in the billions. On the streets, humans were adapting to the invasion with remarkable speed. Tae Young, an enterprising food delivery driver, had already created a new service, Alien Eats, food delivery for our arthropod neighbors. He was making a fortune delivering Korean fried chicken to confused Vexthar warriors who had discovered that conquering worked up an appetite. Bora, a language teacher, had opened an emergency crash course in Vexthar language. "Learn to understand your conquerors," her advertisements read. "First class free, perfect for making small talk with the invasion force." She was fully booked for weeks. Hyunwoo, a tech developer, had created an app called Alien Buddy that matched Vexthar warriors with local tour guides. The reviews were already coming in. My warrior was very polite. Wanted to see all the historic sites. Gave 5 stars. The Seoul municipal government had updated its traffic laws to include multi-limbed pedestrians and was handing out pamphlets to Vexthar warriors explaining how to use crosswalks properly. In the military command center, General Wanshik was reviewing the actual threat assessment. His staff had compiled detailed information on Vexthar biology, weapons, and tactics. Exoskeletons have weak points at the joints, he noted, pointing to a holographic display. Standard armor-piercing rounds would be effective. Their communication relies on tight beam frequencies that we can jam. Their dropships have vulnerable fuel cells. We could eliminate their ground forces in approximately 48 hours if we committed to full military engagement. Special Forces Commander Yoon-bi nodded. We've developed what we're calling aggressive entomology tactics. Basically pest control on a large scale. But we're not using them, Wanshik finished, because the civilian approach is working better than military engagement ever could. They pulled up the data. Vexthar warriors were not dying in combat. They were getting jobs, being offered food, making friends. The invasion was being defeated by hospitality. It's the most efficient victory in military history, Yoon-bi said, a smile playing at her lips. 0 casualties on either side, and we're winning through aggressive friendliness. Meanwhile, Cultural Minister Sung-ho was implementing the most devastating weapon in Earth's arsenal, popular culture. The Vexthar were a hive mind species. They shared consciousness across their collective. This was their greatest strength. It was also their greatest weakness. Sung-ho had arranged for Vexthar warriors to be exposed to Earth's entertainment, K-pop concerts, J-dramas, telenovelas, reality TV. The warriors, still connected to the hive mind, couldn't help but share these experiences with the collective. The hive mind was being infected with Earth culture. A warrior designated Tekfon, stationed in Seoul, watched 3 episodes of a cooking competition show. It found itself interested. The techniques were fascinating. The creativity was impressive. It wanted to know who would win. This information was shared with the hive mind. Suddenly, 70,000 other warriors knew about the cooking show. Some of them became curious too. They started watching. Another warrior, Tikris, was exposed to K-pop music. The rhythms were complex. The choreography was precise. Something in its neural patterns responded to the beat. It found itself enjoying it. Was that the right word? The enjoyment was shared. Other warriors began listening. Some started moving to the rhythm. The hive mind was not designed for individual preferences. It was designed for unity of purpose. But now it was receiving contradictory input. Some warriors liked the cooking show. Others preferred the music competition. A few had discovered anime and were arguing about which series was better. Arguing. In the hive mind. Warriors were developing opinions. Back on the command ship, Tekachak was experiencing something it had never felt before. A headache. The hive mind was becoming chaotic. Individual warriors were reporting strange desires. One wanted to try kimchi. Another wanted to learn guitar. A third was asking about the possibility of attending college to study Earth literature. What is happening to our warriors? Tikachak demanded. The intelligence officer was reviewing the data, its antennae drooping. Commander, they're developing individuality. The humans are exposing them to choices, options, preferences. It's fragmenting the collective consciousness. On the streets of Seoul, Kangdai had finally given in and sold tteokbokki to a Vexthar warrior. The warrior, Tukzar, the same one who had been hit with the ladle, carefully picked up the rice cake with one claw and tasted it. The explosion of flavor was unlike anything in the Vexthar nutritional database. Spicy, sweet, savory, complex. Tukzar liked it. This preference was immediately shared with the hive mind. 70,000 warriors suddenly knew what tteokbokki tasted like, and they wanted to try it too. Kangdai looked at his cart, then at the growing line of Vexthar warriors, then pulled out his phone and called his supplier. Yeah, I'm going to need about 10 times my usual order. No, I'm not joking. The invasion force has discovered Korean street food. That night, as Earth's first day of invasion ended, the casualty count was 0 on both sides. The conquest count was also 0 for the Vexthar. But for Earth, Earth had gained 70,000 new customers, several viral entertainment moments, and an unexpected workforce that was very efficient at construction thanks to having 4 arms. The war was not going according to plan. Not for the Vexthar, anyway. For Earth, it was going perfectly.